Hi, I'm Natasha Ryan with Premier Risk Solutions. And this is, of course, our video series, Strong, Safe, and True, where we talk to security leaders in our industry. And today I'm very excited to have my former MC buddy from GSX 2021 and the man, the myth, the legend from DSI, Eddie Sorrells, joining me right now. Eddie, thank you for your time, first off.
Thanks, Natasha. Appreciate you having me.
Okay, so here's why I'm having Eddie on. I looked at his LinkedIn page and saw this article that he wrote 2 years ago, read it, all about the usage of cameras. And Eddie, I kind of want to talk about this. I know it was 2 years ago, and as you say, some of those gaps have been closed. But the initial article is something we still run across all the time when we go to risk assessments, right? People put cameras up, but then they don't monitor them, right? So I don't know how much good they're doing. So how prevalent is putting up dummy cameras or cameras that aren't being monitored? I mean, how big of a problem do you still see this being now?
Well, it's really a fundamental question for the security industry. And of course, security cameras have been around for many, many years. In fact, I think the first recorded instance of a camera being used for security purposes is over 100 years ago. And currently, there are around 70 million cameras just in the US alone. And that number grows exponentially every single day. So the issue really comes down to how do those cameras really incorporate into your overall security plan? And that does come down to how do you monitor those cameras? The security industry has always looked at cameras as being a deterrent, being something that you can rely on post-incident. And occasionally in the past, you would see someone monitoring a camera, maybe looking at a bank of video monitors and watching a specific sensitive area. And when I wrote the article a couple of years ago, we really talked about that fundamental problem of camera monitoring. And some of those gaps that have been closed is really the technology has really prompted more security professionals to take a look at better ways to do this. And before, you really only had two ways, and I touched on this in the article, and that is event-based monitoring, where there is a camera system, they have analytics on that camera, and an alarm will go off if an event happens. Usually if someone goes into a restricted area, an officer on site or someone in a security operations center would see that alarm and investigate visually to see what's going on and then send a response. The second type would be more or less a patrol monitoring, where someone would get a camera and look into a certain area during a specific time to see if anything is going on. But just in the last couple of years, we now have autonomous response. We have robotics and things that make monitoring much easier. But to your question, think about the 70 million cameras, and I think that number has even grown since the last time I read those studies. Think about 70, 80 million cameras in the US. How many are truly being monitored? How many are just being used to record an incident for later on?
And let's talk about that, because now, as I sit here and think, because I did read that about how you said a lot of these cameras are used as just investigative tools, right, post-incident. So, but as we all are dealing with in the security sector and are all aware of, we have more labor shortages than ever. If you call 911, the responses are not what they used to be because the departments are strapped and just can't get there. So do you think more cameras probably are trending towards just post-incident and the realization of, like, even if there's something taking place, I may not get help?
Well, what is actually going on right now, and to your point, to the labor shortage and trying to do more with less, actually the technology is improving where cameras and monitoring those cameras can be a very vital component. One of the things that's happened in our industry in the past is this dialogue around officers versus technology, one or the other. Now they're sort of blending, that blended services approach where, let's say you have a security officer at a commercial real estate property, and he or she is stationed at the front door, not doing patrol rounds, not able to get out and see what's going on. Using remote video monitoring, using autonomous response, using robotics, you can still have that security officer, but now you can use that video monitoring, using the technology that's available to really maximize his or her efforts. When I started in this industry 30 years ago, technology was non-existent in the security field. You would go to a post and you would not see a security officer really interacting with technology too much. Now you can give that security officer in the palm of his or her hand the ability to monitor cameras throughout the property, in other areas of the property, sometimes even other posts in other cities, or it can be done through a remote video monitoring center. So again, through the autonomous response, that's one of the gaps I think that's been filled as well through some of the robotic companies that are doing great work in our industry, is not just having someone watch that camera. And of course, now we have the ability to speak to someone through that camera, but also have an autonomous response be your first measure and first level of security. If you go into a restricted area, an autonomous response will say, you're in a restricted area, please leave. And you can customize that messaging. So I think we're going to see the security industry embrace this technology more, not just because of labor shortage. That certainly is a benefit to using more technology, but in some cases, it's just better.
It's interesting because I never really thought about this, but it's true. I think it was in the article or comments below. I'm not sure, but it was talking about how when you put screens in front of people, we all kind of have become gnats with our attention spans. So how do you keep people engaged and watching those screens and not looking at their Instagram, or, you know what I mean?
And that's a great question. That really goes back to how effective camera monitoring really is. And that goes back to having good analytics, using those autonomous responses, using our artificial intelligence, but really embracing the event-based nature of camera monitoring. If I was to sit here today and just stare at 5 or even 1 camera for more than 5 minutes, in fact, that the study that you mentioned that I had in the article a couple of years ago, I think the study said that after 8 seconds, most people will lose the rational thought of attention spans. And that is decreasing every single day because we're so just overloaded with stimulus, whether it be a smartphone screen. So then you get into also the question of what are you looking for? If I'm looking at a bank of 5 cameras, let's say on a fence line, I'm staring nonstop to try to figure out if someone is breaching that fence line. We have technology that'll do that for us. That'll give us an alert on our phone or give us an alert in a security operations center.
Yep.
Someone doesn't have to stare at that camera because that's not very effective.
All right, Eddie, you want to add anything?
No, I think, and one of the things that I've been talking a lot to leaders in our industry about is really embracing this technology. There are a lot of challenges in our industry, but one of the bright sides are that there's never been a better time to use technology. It's advancing, it's evolving, and it's solving those problems. And I was talking to a colleague just this morning, and I made the comment that we can't continue to solve new problems with the same old solutions. So I think we have a great future ahead of us when it comes to technology. So I would encourage everyone to look into that and make that a part of your security program.
Yep, we have to continue to evolve. All right, well, Eddie, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate you and your knowledge here. So thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching. And remember to come back to premierrisksolutions.com for more videos just like this one. Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks, Natasha.